Welcome back to another webinar from GDS Storefront Estimating. This is the second in the series for the DoubleCAD software. The last time we covered some basics for this DoubleCAD program, and here we have it here. It's a free CAD program that we just came across, and it's made by the same people that make TurboCAD and that company. IMSI Design, I think it's called, makes a lot of different CAD programs actually. So we go to About here, and they have a Double CAD Pro even that you can pay for that has some more features. But this one's pretty cool because it works well with the GDS drawings. So let's get into a few more bits about this process of getting drawings into a CAD program and manipulating them. So what we're going to talk about today is more about the cover page, the borders, and combining everything and editing some text and printing. So let's start with the cover page. I have my sample job here. Now the cover page and border sheet share a lot of the same information. Now the border sheet's fairly basic because there's just a couple things on the borders, but the cover page actually has some schedules with framing system information, glass information, some legends, things that that you can have show up on the actual cover page. And then there's contract information. Now you'll notice some of these are grayed out, and the reason for that is because of the sheet size that I have selected. So our cover page is designed in two formats. One is for 11 by 17, one's for 24 by 36. So same thing goes with the border page. So depending on what sheet size you have will determine kind of how much information will fit. So a lot of people don't have 24 by 36, so let's go ahead and see what it looks like with 11 by 17. And even that, you can print that on 8.5 by 11 printer or page, except things are just going to be smaller. So if you want everything to fit, it's just going to show up in a little smaller size, but it should still be readable. So I've filled this out just so you can get an idea of where the information goes. And what we're looking at is an elevation or a job with 3 elevations, and if we add the cover page, that gives us 4 sheets. So you can fill out that field here at the bottom too. It's cover page will be sheet 1 of 4, assuming you've got an elevation per sheet on for the 3 elevations. That's what you'd have. So in order to actually save the cover page, we need to hit this Create Cover DWG button here. Now, you'll notice it does some weird things. It doesn't wrap the text right here, so really printing this isn't going to do you much good. So you do actually need to open this up in a CAD program. So in order to save it, in order to even open it with something that's not associated to the WinBidPro software, you need to hit this Edit Save button. So if you don't do that, you'll never be able to find the file, and because it never created it. So right now it's actually creating the file and trying to open it in the DoubleCAD software. So I noticed the DoubleCAD software opens a little bit slow, but once it opens, it seems to run fine. So here's the same information that we saw before in that screen that had the Edit Save button, and it did actually wrap all the text. So it's looking a little better. The problem is it's not really lined up. So this is why it's important to have a decent CAD program in our software. And I think if we were to hit the 24 by 36 sheet size, the alignment would be a little bit better. But in this case, it didn't really line up. So here's something that I've noticed just playing with this. Now it's real easy to move this stuff around in DoubleCAD. So I can just click on it and then click and drag. And then I just move that block down to a more appropriate place. I can do that with this block. I just click and drag and let go. That puts it where I want. You'll notice this here kind of wraps into this other block. I can actually double click on one of these blocks and I can edit the text in this little window, which is a really simple way to do it. So I'm going to put that on 2 lines, and then I can move this down, and everything's looking a lot better with that. Now this one's actually, oh, you'll notice if it doesn't know what you're clicking on, it's going to give you a little bit of a list. So the block insertion is this big frame around everything. Text, there's actually a header behind this this group of text blocking it, and then if I go to the next text, it kind of highlights the big block I want. So I want to click that. Now I just want to click anywhere in that and drag it down. The problem is there's just a lot of things in the way here. Here's another bit of text I can drag. Sometimes it doesn't drag in 2 dimensions, so if that happens, like it's doing that to me right now, I think it's because it's kind of overlapping with the other block. So if that happens, then go to the yellow little diamond here, get the cross arrows there, and click on that, and then it lets you do 2-dimensional placement. Otherwise, it was letting me only do left and right, so horizontal movement. Now, so this still isn't fitting here. So I can double click this and I can start, editing things, deleting things. But this is something to think about for the actual cover page information back in our program. So I'm actually not going to save this. I'm going to close. You'll notice I have 2 DoubleCAD sessions going right now. I have the blank one I was going to start with, and then this one opened from our software. So, and again, I told GDS to use DoubleCAD as its default CAD program. So let's close this. We'll go back to the cover page, and then we're going to look at some of that information. And it was the exclusions, I think, that weren't fitting properly. And again, if you don't really need this stuff, it says here the following items are not supplied by this manufacturer. Unless stated otherwise. So if we don't need any of that, we can actually just go ahead and delete that from here. And that we would want to do all this kind of adjusting before we create the cover page. So let's go ahead and create that cover page again. Now, I have to hit Edit Save again for it to actually create the file. So let's do that. I think if the file exists and you hit, well, if you hit Edit Save and the file exists, it's probably just going to open the existing file, but let's find out what it does here. And I'll show you a little trick about kind of starting over if you need to. So yeah, it looks like it actually overwrote it with whatever information came from that screen in the actual WinBidPro software. So now you'll notice I didn't save it before, so all those other changes were gone. It would have been overwritten anyway, so those other changes are gone. So I can click this, I can move it down, all the things that I was doing before. So then obviously if I want to save that, I can just click Save. And this DoubleCAD program saves in the, it says it's in the older 2000 to 2003 version, but it wants to save it in the newer version. So that's fine since I can open it again with DoubleCAD anyway. So I can hit Save. We kind of left that older versioning in the software because some of our customers had old AutoCAD programs and they weren't able to use the newer formats. So as long as your software can open a newer format, then you're good. Okay, so let's close this. So now I've still got 2 sessions. Now I'm back to the one DoubleCAD here that we're going to open in a second. So, okay, that's the cover page. You can just print that separately from in DoubleCAD, and I'll actually open that later, and we'll kind of see what it looks like printing. Now let's create the border. So remember, all this information, some of it gets used in the border. Some of the stuff that's grayed out definitely doesn't because of the sheet size. And some of the stuff that's not grayed out does, whatever fits on the border. So when we click that, now the border looks good. It doesn't have any things that are overlapping and inappropriateness kind of stuff. So, so this border looks good. I'm going to edit, save that. It's actually going to open it up in DoubleCAD, which is fine. And then we're going to, yeah, it's funny how slow it opens sometimes because this is a fairly quick computer. So we're going to close it. So this is how it looks in DoubleCAD, which is great. So that made sure it's saved. So now I can close it, and I can close this. That's something you could actually print just right from the screen there, and you can make it fit to the page, and you can have a, a page with a border, but it doesn't do you much good without any drawings on it. So that's the next step. We need to go to the drawings. So here's a trick about doing shop drawings. We're going to go to drawing settings. So something that the program is good at is creating the scaled drawing correctly. Now, if I know that I'm printing to 8.5 by 11 paper, and I want my drawings scaled to quarter scale, which I have set here, and I still want them to maximize elevations per sheet, the program's going to figure out whether multiple quarter scale drawings can fit on one page. So depending on the size of your elevations, it will help determine, it will determine how many can fit. So I can hit OK on that. That's the way I want it set. Now I've got some, 110 by 180. These are like medium-sized elevations. I think they're all in that neighborhood. There's 120 by 150-ish. This one's a little bigger, 120 by almost 200. So they're not going to fit quarter scale. I just kind of know that, obviously, but when we hit shop drawing, you'll see what happens. So we've got the maximized drawings per sheet set, but we'll see how it turns out here. So what the shop drawing tool did was it created 3 separate tabs, which means each elevation has its own tab. So then it also created a set of details, which are kind of small here. And even though I hit 100%, they're small. So details are a little tough. I might have mentioned this before, where the scaling from the manufacturer, it's hard for us to determine the scaling with a DWG file. So we're kind of just sticking with one scale for details based on the majority of manufacturers, and the ones that don't scale correctly are not kind of defaulting to the right scale for us. So, but with CAD software, it really doesn't matter. So here's what I mean. So let's go to the blank, I don't have any documents open in DoubleCAD here. I'm going to go to the open folder icon. And this is the job I'm using, the sample job. I've got my cover page. Let's do that real quick. So here's my cover page. There's a few more things I need to do to get it looking good. If it's not fitting in this block correctly, I can go to, where am I here? Sorry. I think it's not letting me edit because I'm clicking. Yeah, I think it's because it's overlapping stuff here. So I can make this smaller. Now remember, when I make it smaller, the font size, it's kind of like making it smaller font size. So you'll notice these letters are bigger than these up here. It all fits that way, so there's nothing really wrong with that, but you just have to kind of keep that in mind. I'm going to drag this one down. This is something I already did before, but we're going to do it now. And then, remember, I just double-clicked on that to edit it. Now I can kind of scoot it down a little. There's a little bit of room to scoot this one down. I'm going to scroll out so I have a little more control over the whole document. So here's a block that looks like it's going to fit fine. I'll just move that down. So everything's pretty much fitting in here. I can actually shrink this a tiny bit. And this kind of threw me off. In DoubleCAD, if you point your mouse to the bottom, let's zoom in on this. So it's overlapping a tiny bit. I point my mouse here. Usually you get like a 45-degree angle arrow. Even though it shows you a horizontal arrow, it's still going to let me size it. So this size is proportionally anyway, so it's going to shrink it both on the X and Y axis when I move it. So I'm just going to make it so it fits, just like that. So now, I don't know if I didn't mention this last time, to get it all to fit back in the window again, we can right-click and we can go to Zoom Extents. That's kind of a common CAD term. So anytime it says Extents, it means it's going to make it all fit in the window. So we hit Zoom Extents. Now everything looks good. Now actually what we want to do is if we want to print this, I can go to print. Actually, I can go to print preview. I kind of like to do that because it says things aren't really lining up very well. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to page setup. It knows that I want 8.5 by 11 landscape, but it thinks that my drawing sheet size is bigger. So there might be a default for this in DoubleCAD, but I haven't figured it out yet. So remember, I'm not really not at all a CAD expert. So I'm just picking this up just like you would, and I'm just kind of passing along what I've learned. So this is what I've learned. It knows your paper size based on your printer driver. So I have a printer that only prints 8.5 by 11, so it's not going to show me any other sizes here. I mean, index card is smaller, anything smaller, I guess, but nothing bigger. So 8.5 by 11 is as big as I can get. Drawing sheet size, that's unlimited from the CAD software. So they basically need to match up in order to get things set right to print. So it knows that I want to keep things centered. Right now, it doesn't know that I want it to fit to page. It knows that it's this scale. So if I hit fit, then it's looking more, oh, I got the wrong, let's see, ANSI. I don't want ANSI A, I want letter size 8.5 by 11. Let's do fit on that. Not sure why it's looking funny there. Oh, it's not landscape, so let's make sure that's what threw it off, I think. We're going to go landscape, letter size. Yeah, landscape, and fit that. There we go. So you can usually tell because the white part there in the background is the actual paper, and obviously the other stuff's our drawing. So this is what it looks like. It's going to fill the page. It's going to center it. I can hit print on that right now, and it'll print. I can hit OK, and it'll go back to the preview screen, and it'll be previewed correctly too, and I can print from here. So that's an easy way to get your cover page to print, fill the paper, everything looks good. Now, one thing I've noticed, it's a lot easier to, and let's show you this on the border actually. Let me close this. We're done with our cover page. I'll go ahead and save that for the heck of it. File format that is not supported. I'm not sure why it's saying that. Like I said, I'm learning as we go here. Okay, now I'm going to open the border. So there's a couple things. Yeah, let's go ahead and open the border. So we're going to open the border. And we've got, vertical text here, which is fine. So now it's not sure what I want to edit again. There's a couple things that are kind of, and it might be because these are all grouped together, and part of this group, there's two components or two entities. So I want to select the text. And then if I double click this, it should open up. Yeah, my text window here. So that's an easy way, obviously, to edit your text. To change the size of it, it's just as easy to drag it. So I can drag it here, see how big I can get it. If I want it a little bigger, it's got to be able to fit, though. Then I can kind of move it around. So there, I made that bigger. So one thing that I'm going to select text on this, just like I did before. Now, if you want to copy and paste something, it's a lot easier to do that than it is to create a new text object. So I've learned that. So copy and pasting, you just go to the Edit window. For some reason, this program doesn't do Control-C, Control-V, Control-X like you're used to. It does. You have to use the tools. Kind of weird, but they work fine once you get used to it. So I'm going to hit Copy here. And then I'm just going to click anywhere, and I'm going to go right-click. So I could have right-clicked too. You can go to Edit or right-click. So there, now I've pasted that same text. And so this makes it really easy for me to drag this around. I can put it over here if I want. And then it's really easy, obviously, to edit it. So that's what I recommend for, and you can even go to the text item here. And I can say I want the height of this to be, 0.5, and I can hit OK. It gives you a little preview window down here. So that's what 0.5 looks like on our cover page, our border. So the scaling's kind of funny with some of this stuff, and let me show you that. So let's go ahead and save this. We're going to save it in the newer format. we're going to close. Now, when you're trying to do your own shop drawings, I've hit the shop drawings, button. It created the elevations. It compiled the details. We've already saved our cover page. We've saved our border. So now, and here's one thing. We can actually go to the border and show it, and I can hit redraw. And I've saved that file, and our program can open it. So it got my changes here, which is kind of cool. So keep that in mind too. This is one way to do it, where if I hit print now, where are we? I never print from this screen anymore. So we go to print here, and it should be, oh, well, that's funny. Okay, it didn't like me printing that. So let's go back into the program here. It actually closed the program. All right, so we're going to go back to it, and we're using the TrueLight glass and aluminum catalog, by the way. So I hit select. It might not like the fact that I've opened and closed stuff so much here, but it should be fine. So there's the border. I'm going to hit redraw. There's our border. Let's try this one more time and see if, yeah, it's not liking something. To be honest, I've never seen that happen. So this is a virtual machine I run this on, which is kind of like it's an operating system within an operating system, so I might not have enough memory. When you're using CAD, keep in mind you want a fairly powerful computer. I only have 3 gigabytes reserved for this Windows 8 virtual machine, and really I would recommend 6 to 8 gigabytes if you've got a Windows 8 machine. So I'm kind of pushing the limit here, I think. So keep that in mind too. If you need a big screen, you need lots of memory, and a fast processor doesn't hurt because it redraws quicker and everything happens faster. So all right. We're not going to worry about showing the border here. The problem with that is you have to do it on every elevation anyway. So although for a quick way to print your elevation with, well, let's see something real quick. If we go to the cover page border, yeah, see, I don't want to create and accidentally overwrite it, so I'm not going to click that. So we redraw. I mean, this is a quick way to do it, and I guarantee this should print on your machine. So yeah, but in my case, what I'm going to do is go to DoubleCAD. I'm going to open, so the sequence is what I was getting at before. The sequence of the things that I open is kind of important, because just the way that things work in the CAD software. So the first thing I'm going to open is the details. So the details are going to come in one shot. So right now I'm navigating through the TrueLight folder, and that's the vendor I'm using. So there's a GDS detailed drawings folder. That's created whenever you compile shop drawings for a vendor that has details in the vendor. So the details are in the vendor. I've got my sample job is what I've been working on, and the details were combined. It says 1 through 6. So there were 6 details, and it combined them into one file, which is great. And that's kind of the time saver. I don't have to drag. Now I can actually, this is the beauty of DoubleCAD. Over here on the right-hand side, we've got a window called Blocks. And we've also got Style Manager. So Style Manager is kind of cool. I haven't really figured out everything in here, although a lot of it makes sense. I know that it's doing something with the information we're passing along in the CAD file, because it shows TrueLight here under the dimensions and things. But the main thing I want to show you today is the blocks. So we create blocks when we compile the shop drawings. Now we've even created the cover page as a block. So each elevation is a block, and each detail is a block. Now it's already combined the details into one thing here, so that's good. Now the next thing I want to do is I can bring the elevations in, and all I have to do here is click and drag. So I can drag one here, I can drag one here, and I can drag the third one here. So in this case, I'm actually making them all fit on one page. So I just want to show you this to show you how it works. Now, they're not going to print to scale on one page because we've already determined that at quarter scale on 8.5 by 11 sheet, it's only going to be able to fit one per page. So I just want to show you what this process is like if you do have, or if you change your mind and you want to save it as, let's say you're sending your CAD drawing to an architect or not, but a contractor, someone that has a plotter, and they can print it in a bigger format, then you can go ahead and combine more elevations on a page. So now we've got our details here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and scroll up. I'm actually going to position these a little better on the drawing. So I'm going to drag around the ones I want to select, and then I'm going to just click and drag them down, highlight basically. I'm highlighting, selecting the details I want. And then I'm going to click and drag these. Now I'm going to zoom in a little more, maybe scroll down. So now it's easy for me. Now these details are blocks, individual blocks. So one detail is a block, another detail is a block. Oh, I didn't really want to double click that. So, Oh, and that's something I was going to show you too. So I think we covered this in the last video, but let me get this going here. I'm going to get these a little closer together. I'm actually going to get these out of the way. Now the workspace in a CAD program is really weird because it's not like you're working on a piece of paper like Microsoft Word or Excel or something like that. You're actually kind of in an infinite space where if I zoom in and out, this could be like a 200 by 200 piece of paper or something. So it just depends on where you are when you're zoomed. That's the workspace that you're on. So if that makes sense, it's kind of strange, but you get used to it. And remember, wherever I point and scroll, that kind of is the center of where it's zooming. So if I want to zoom in the center here. So what I was getting at was I want to group these as one group. I want to explode these as one group so that I can change the dimensions. Now one thing about DoubleCAD, for some reason the way it reads our drawing files, it shows the dimensions as being very small. So I want to select all these elevations and I want to explode them so that it gives the individual entities their own object, I guess. And now I can right click and go to Properties. And now I can go to Format. And with Format, I can manipulate the dimensions. So Format, for some reason, means dimension formats. I'm not sure. All it says is Format here, so I don't get why that is. But in DoubleCAD, just remember, if you go to Properties Format, you're basically looking at dimension information. I found that the 3-inch height for the text is a good height. And then here's something I've messed with. If I want to change these arrows, if I don't like the way those arrows look and I like these little slashes better, I can actually change the leading and trailing slash right here as well. And those are already set to 3 inches, so those are going to be the same proportions as the arrows were. But if for some reason the dimensions don't open right for some file you open, you can always manipulate how the dimensions look here as well. So now you notice that the text got a little bit bigger. It's kind of hard to see, but now before I click off of this, I want to regroup it. So I've exploded it to make them all individual pieces. But to make it easier to move these around, I want to group them again as one thing. So I'm going to go to Format and Make Group. So now when I click on it, I can move it around. It also lets you do that if you were just to highlight them. But in this case, if I just click one of these, it's going to select the whole group, and that's the beauty of it. So anytime I move this group, all I have to do is click on anywhere, on any one of these items in the group. So now we can go back. So now you'll notice our dimensions are different. I've got my little slashes, I don't know what you call those, and then the text is bigger for the dimensions, so that's good. So I'm going to grab these details again, just highlight them and select them. I'm going to drag them over here and click, and now they're good to go. I'm going to actually make them bigger. And if those aren't quite big enough, I can manipulate them individually. Like if I want to move this one a little bit closer here, Oops, I want to move this one closer here. And then this one maybe needs to be moved over a tiny bit. I want to select all three of these and size them. And then I want to select all three of these. I want to move them up a little and size them. So you can see how it's pretty easy to manipulate this stuff. You know, I like the simplicity of editing and manipulating the drawings that way. So last thing, if when I print this, if I want to print this at quarter scale, I am going to need bigger paper. So let's go back to our file, print preview, and it says, okay, you know, the drawing's outside the border of the paper and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to go to page setup. Now, unfortunately, it won't let me pick bigger paper. So what can we do? It already knows that the drawings are too big. So basically, you can just make it fit. You know, if we had our letter paper, you wouldn't be able to print it to scale. We can make it fit, and there's what it would look like fitting. And then I could just hit print. So that's fine if you're not worried about scale. It's going to be kind of small because on 8.5 by 11, drawings of that size with details are going to be fairly small. So keep that in mind. What we will do in a second is I'll show you how you can print it to scale. So the last thing I want to do on this is bring in the border. So here's the border in the blocks area. I'm just going to click and drag that over here somewhere where I know I can just make it bigger and go around these elevations in detail. So see, now I've pretty much sized the border. Oops, now I'm messing with the scale of it. I don't want to do that. There we go. So there's our border. It's around our elevations and our details. I can actually, now I don't need to click and drag this whole thing anywhere on this white space because this is kind of just infinite space. I'm not worried about that. All I'm worried about is how these things are aligned you know, relative to each other. Because when I go here, when I go to File and Print Preview and tell it that, okay, yeah, I know, and tell it that, you know, whatever paper size I want, if it's landscape and it fits to the page, it's going to just make it fit. Now, we can actually specify a scale. Like here's where you can say, you know, it needs to be 1/4 inch to a foot. Like right here is 1/4 inch to a foot. But basically this is saying this is what size paper I would need for that to happen. Now the one problem is when I say this whole thing in its entirety is 1/4 inch to a foot, I think it's taking into account the border as well. So whatever scale that was created in. And that's getting a little beyond my you know, level of knowledge. So we're going to cancel out of this. But you see now how easy it is to do the by the foot. I mean, I'm sorry, fit to page thing. So let's go ahead and close this. I'm not going to save it. And then I'm going to open just the cover page this time. So I'm going to go back to the TrueLight folder. And remember, this is all just on my C drive. So here's my C drive. Here's my WinBidPro folder. And here's my TrueLight folder. And this is what I was just looking at right here. So same exact thing. So that's the only way, I mean, that's how I found it. Your vendors can be on your server, they can be on someone else's computer. As long as you have access to that folder, then you can do all this stuff. So we're going to go to elevation drawings now. So GDS elevation drawings, that's where all the job elevations, cover page, border pages are saved. I'm going to go to my sample job. Now I'm going to go to the border page, and that's going to open up, right? So now you'll notice something. The border page doesn't have all the blocks from the other things, but if I were to open up just one of the elevations, where are we here? Oh, so let's say this is the same job here. I've created these another time without that maximize elevations per sheet set. So if I want to create, if I want to open up an elevation, Oh, that's another thing. So it doesn't have the blocks over here. So let's figure this out. So if I don't have the blocks over here to drag in, then that means I need to open up another file. So I need to open up the border page. It's going to open up in another window. So all I have to do is go up to window here, right? So what I want to do is zoom out. Now I'm not changing the scale when I zoom out. All I'm doing is making things smaller visually. So it's still the same scale. It's still everything. So that's one caveat or warning about if I go back to the elevation drawing. Don't take an elevation drawing. Where are we here? Oh, and sometimes you have to escape out of a certain command. Like I think I'm on the select objects command here or tool, but if I'm not and I want to just make sure it's kind of cleared out and reset, I want to click down in the command window and hit escape. That gives you a cancel command. I believe you can also type cancel. Let's see here. Yeah, you can also type cancel, but so now it should let me do something different here. Now notice that when I open up an individual elevation, it's giving me an exploded elevation. Each thing I click on is a separate little, see how it wants to select the different polylines? Like there's one there. So I don't want that. I want this to be one grouped elevation. So if I can select the whole group or the whole elevation, go up to Format and Make Group, then this is what I want to see. But remember, it does need to be exploded to change the dimensions. So if let's say I already did that. So now that I've grouped it, I can click on anywhere on the elevation and it selects the whole thing. This is what I want to do to move the whole thing around easily, and then also to copy and paste either the elevation or something into this elevation document. So let's do that. We're going to copy the border. So I'm going to click on the border. See, now it's beeping at me, so I have to go down here again and hit escape. So now I should be able to click. Yeah, okay. Sometimes if you click in the middle, it doesn't like it. I haven't quite figured that out, but okay, so I selected my whole border. I can't do Control C, so I have to right-click, and I have to hit Copy. Now I'm going to go over to my other document, Elevation, and I'm actually just going to paste it anywhere in here. Remember, it's just kind of like an infinite workspace. So I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to hit Paste. So see how something about the scaling, the actual cover page comes in tiny, where the drawing's a lot bigger. So I'm just going to take this and expand it around the elevation real quick. And then I can size things a little bit after. So here's the thing. The drawing is quarter scale. That's something I know. And I know that just because I've been playing with it. And so you can basically take my word for it. Now this is an older cover page I've saved because it doesn't have the all the text in there, but that's okay. We showed you how you could do that. But if I want to print this drawing to scale, I can actually go to Print Preview now. I've got my border around the elevation. Let's say it's all populated with text and everything. I can go to Print Preview. I can go to Page Setup. I need to pick letter. I'm not sure why it doesn't. It might not remember this because I haven't printed. Well, I thought I did print a couple things, so not sure why it's not remembering that. There might be a default setting somewhere. So if I do now if I select quarter scale, where are we? Quarter to a foot. See how it looks like? So I know my drawing's the right size. And I did test this. I printed this. The drawing's the right size, but the border can actually be bigger. So this is kind of a way for me to figure out how big my border needs to be, unless you're happy with it like that. But I know there's still more room on the document for a bigger border. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go click on my border. I'm going to make it a little bigger like this, a little bigger like this. And then I'm going to preview it again. And unfortunately, I have to hit the same stuff, which is kind of a pain. And then I'm going to pick the scale correctly. See, initially it might be trying to scale it based on the the border itself. So now that border is right inside my printable area. The printable area is that minus the print margins. So I can change my print margins by going to layout here. Like we've got a little over 3/4 top and bottom, left and right's pretty small. But basically I can go back to paper. This is good for how I'd want it to look. So I can print this, it looks good, the border almost fills the page. I can go a little bit bigger, and then the drawing is 1/4 scale. So that's how it would work. Now you can bring your details in, do the same thing. If you do 1/4 inches a foot, it'll work. So just don't change the size of the elevations. So if I close this, here's something to think about. If I zoom in, unfortunately I didn't change the size of the dimensions here. But this is a 180-inch wide elevation, right? So if I click this and I try and size it with this, you'll notice down here on the bottom left, the size X and Y is changing, the position X and Y is changing, everything's changing, right? So when I let go, and now I go back up here and I scroll, the width of my elevation is now 155 3/8. So it's actually rescaled, resized my elevation, and all the dimension lines changed. So that's something you don't want to do. Now if I accidentally did that and realize what I did, I can go undo selected something or other. Let's see if I can undo scale. There we go. So undo scale puts me back to where it was at 180 inches. So you never want to do that to an elevation. You never want to scale it here. I would say our software scales it correctly once you have the scale set. When you create that DWG file, you don't need to mess with it. If you do need to rescale it, there's some more you need to learn with the CAD software, and I unfortunately haven't learned enough about it yet. So I do know how to scale it at printing, but the original drawing has to be the right scale to begin with. So that's it for now. We're a little bit over, but there is a lot to learn with this CAD stuff. So it's a free program. I think it does a great job with our software with all these blocks and real quick editing and moving. One last thing is if you want to delete something, there's no delete that I could find anywhere. A lot of CAD programs have like an X to delete stuff, but this doesn't. So really what I've been doing is just hitting cut. So if I want to cut, delete something, I cut it, and that works too. So, and your actual cut, copy, paste stuff is up here too. So that's it for today. That's DoubleCAD, and remember you can go to their website and download the program. They've got a pro version. They sell TurboCAD. There's a few other ones, but this one works real well with the GDS drawings. Thanks very much.